Welcome to Corks Conversation with Iris Yamashita.
I'm so excited to talk with her today about her best, most fabulous debut novel, City Under One Roof. Look at this gorgeous cover. Can't wait to talk to her about this.
Hey, Kathy, you say roof, and I say roof.
I do
I
say
can't
rough.
wait to find out what Iris says. But yeah, I really like this book too, Kathy. It's so different because I'm in Florida, so frozen and isolated environment. It was just fun imagining that.
Well, the frozen part I can totally identify with in my world, but the rest of it, not so much.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, so before we get started, let's tell everyone about her. Irish uh, Iris Yamashita is an Academy Award nominated screenwriter for the movie Letters from Iwo Jima.
hmm.
She's been working in Hollywood for 15 years, developing material for both film and streaming. She's taught screenwriting at UCLA and is an advocate of women and diversity in the entertainment industry. Yay.
She's got her
She's
work
been
cut
a
out for her.
judge. No. She's been a judge and mentor for various film and writing programs and lives in, guess it, California. And this book has come out to rave reviews, and one of them that I really wanted to share was from Mary Kubica. She's the New York Times bestselling author of Local Woman Missing, and I think we've talked about her before, Kathy.
Hmm.
City Under One Roof is a gripping, unsettling, and oppressive thriller that welcomes a wonderful new talent to the genre. Prepare to be quickly immersed in this dark and moody murder mystery. Ooh, so Iris, it is so nice to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here, and across different parts of the US, it sounds like.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's great. The Mary's blurb was so nice. All the authors have been so nice and welcoming. So
Yeah,
this
yeah, it's a good community we found anyway. So,
So, yeah, should we
go
start with
ahead, Kathy.
let's start with the wine. That's where we always usually go. But today we have a special wine because we have the Cardinal Rule Cabernet and Iris has it there. Look at that. Also a
Ooh,
gorgeous label. But there's a
yes.
particular reason she chose this. So share with us. Tell us why you chose this one.
yes, this is actually my brother-in-law's wine label, and he and his partner. They both graduated from Stanford. So what I understand is Cardinal is the name of the Stanford football team. So they
Okay.
named it Cardinal Rule. And so I've got my
Oh,
glass here.
fun. That's a good connection to have.
I know. Well, so let's say cheers to you and this beautiful book and your debut novel.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And I wish I was enjoying some of that Cardinal Cabernet with you. It looks absolutely beautiful. Have you been to the vineyard?
No, I have not. I think they have I think they have someone who runs it, and then
Yeah.
So they're
because
just
I
sort
don't
of
see him
like
in the vineyard.
the behind the scenes. Yeah. Well, at least
That,
you get some free wine, right?
Yes, that's a good perk.
I
Yeah,
was
he
I
does
was on
have.
their website here just a little bit ago and it looks really gorgeous. So we'll put a link for everybody so they can see all about Cardinal Rule wines.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, let's get talking about what we're here to talk about today, City Under One Roof. How do you say it, Iris?
I say roof.
So do I. It's probably Midwestern.
I
Yeah.
imagine I
I didn't notice the difference until you said it in the beginning, and I was like, well,
roof.
that sounds
Yeah, I
different
say
than the way
roof and you say roof. Interesting. I
roof.
love that. Okay, so before we hop into the questions, which I can't wait about, I want to give everybody a quick synopsis of this debut novel. When a local teenager discovers a severed hand and foot washed up on the small town of Point Mettier, Alaska, Detective Kara Kennedy is on the case. And she's a detective from Anchorage, and she gets, I guess she has her own motives to get herself in the scene of the crime. And then this is when things get even freakier because there's a blizzard, and it causes the tunnel, the one-way tunnel in and out of this town, to close down. And so in this town, there's 205 specific number of residents that all live in one high-rise apartment building, and some very interesting characters. There's a local cop that gets involved, Joe, and there are some native gang members that come into play. And Detective Kara Kennedy has a lot going on with her past. So it's just a lot of things coming together. So I loved that this novel, Iris, was narrated by three very different women. Mm-hmm. And I specifically love Detective Kara Kennedy because she's got her own stuff. And she comes into this town and then gets trapped there, which I think is so great. So I'm wondering where she and the other two women kind of came from. Like who came to you first, or what was the spark for those women?
Well, the detective, I think, that is kind of a standard that you would have a female detective. Well, yeah. A detective, and then in my case, a female detective who's the outsider that comes into the town. So, I think that came first because you always want to have the outsider coming in. And I think Lonnie was probably the second idea because I did want to have unique voices. And she did come early on into my cast of odd characters that I was thinking of. And then Amy was probably maybe not a prominent character at first in my mind. And then I did want to have unique voices. So I thought a teenager would be a unique voice because she would have a very different perspective of living in this closeted city with nothing to do. So what she would think of the city would be very different from what the other adults might have thought. So that's how it just kind of
I liked her
I did
voice too. Yeah,
and it was interesting to have a younger voice, a teenager. I thought that was just a completely different perspective. And I just liked how you interwove these three women, very disparate women. And it just all immediately made you kind of keep guessing, like who's got what agenda and what's going on, and who's bringing what with them.
Yeah. And it was like, it was a page turner. And I knew that I was told that ahead of time, just, be careful. And I was kind of glad that I had like some downtime that I could just like keep reading and not have to stop. But I really like the whole, city, like they all lived inside this one building, and I wondered, it kind of brought to mind, many years ago, I was like, I'm going to go live on the research place in Antarctica, where they all live. Like they fly you in and you can't leave, and you're all under one roof and everything for, obvious reasons. And just never really thought it through. But this kind of gives me an idea that probably it would have driven me crazy. But how did you come up with this? Is this like a real place, or, did you research it? I mean, is it all made up? What?
Yeah, I had seen a documentary about 20 years ago about the real city of Whittier, Alaska. And that's the inspiration for my town. Although my town is fictional, I call it Point Mettier. And, I changed a little bit of the geography and a little bit of the details so that, gave me a little more freedom in the storytelling. But when I saw this documentary over 20 years ago, The only way in was actually by train. That tunnel wasn't yet open to car traffic. And that's why it's a one-way tunnel. So they switch directions of the car traffic, I think, like every half hour
Oh,
or
yeah,
so.
that's right. Oh, that's crazy.
So it
That's
was even, yeah, it was even more isolated than it
yeah.
is now. And it just kind of stuck in the back of my mind is that is such a cool, unique city. I think there's a story there somewhere, but I hadn't thought of a story until over 20 years later when I was trying to think of a mystery. And I thought, oh, that setting would be great for a mystery.
Mhm.
So that's where it finally came together. But yeah,
Hmm.
it was always in the back of my mind, like this odd place that
Yeah, I just still I still can't imagine that somebody would live there because I mean like in the Antarctica thing, I mean you just have a term that you're there and then you leave,
Yeah.
it's like it's not like, oh, I'm gonna live here for my life. I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's like the one, the closed room mysteries, right? Traditionally, but in a very yet grand yet very even more limited way because you have the weather and you have like it's just so interesting. So I live in South Dakota and it's very cold and very snowy here. And so and it's interesting when it's, Christy's always astonished that I still go out and walk my dog when it's, 2 below 0. Um, but it does make kind of the world around you slow down here because it's seasonal. But in Alaska, this is how they function. So I was curious about the weather, because you live in a very sunny, warm place. I
yes.
was curious what you thought about the cold weather and how you incorporated that.
Well, I think they I actually visited the town but I went in the summer. And in the summer it's bustling, actually. It's a bustling town. It is a port of call, I think. There are cruise ships that embark and disembark there. They don't stay there usually, I don't think. I think it's just a place they get on the ship and get off.
Hmm.
But they do have a pier full of shops, and I think there's a fishing industry maybe there, and a lot of people who go there in the summer for recreational fishing. And then but I haven't been there in the winter, and from what I understand, it sort of just shuts down at that time. And there are a lot of people who are just there for the season, for the tourist season, and then they leave. So I think it takes a certain kind of person to live there year round.
Yeah.
Do they actually live inside the same apartment building though?
In the real city, I think most of the people live in that one building, but I think there is other housing. But
Hmm.
in my fictional town, there's only
So
the
yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
did
like
you go to
creepy.
research this book oh, that's so fun. That's such
Yes.
good
So
research
yes,
fun.
I did stay in the building. I stayed in the inn that is
You
in the
did.
building.
Ooh, is it
And
haunted?
yeah, the summer is opposite of obviously of the winter
Yeah.
because it stays light most of the day.
Oh,
So
that's true.
they have blackout curtains, but it doesn't really get dark till past 11 p.m. So
That's
it's
so crazy.
it's kind of, I mean, it's not as hard to get used to as I thought, though, because you do have blackout curtains, and it's actually nice because we went to the national park there, Denali, and you can stay there, till 10 at night.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, elongates your days. So how much of your plot and character arcs had you written before you got there? Or had you,
Yeah, I had written a first draft of the novel, and so when I went there, I did get some additional details that I added, and a character that I added as well, a minor character, but I did some edits and additions after I had done my research there.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's time for a little sip of our lovely, well, I'm having water sadly today, but I wish I was having that gorgeous cab. All right, Christy has a question for you. It's what we call the question in the bottle, and it's usually a fun, crazy question that you might get to at the end of a bottle of cab.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. All right. Oh, this is a good one. If a dramatic voice followed you around narrating your life, who would it be?
Who would it be? Morgan Freeman, I guess.
Oh.
Isn't that
would
like
sound
who
very-
comes to our mind automatically? Like I'm like,
I don't know, but it would be very boring if someone was to
Narrate your life.
around narrating my life.
She's
I know.
reading
The cat
again.
litter. It's more like she's feeding the cats. She's
Yeah.
cleaning the litter.
That's a great question.
Kathy, what about you?
Okay, so here's who I would want, but it, like as Iris says, I'm not worthy of this kind of cool voice, but I love listening to Leslie Jones. I think she's so funny. And she was just doing an episode of The Daily Show, like as a guest
Well, that is so
co-host.
funny that you're saying that because you know what I was going to say? I was going to
Huh.
say Wanda Sykes, and she's
Oh, I
doing
love
the
Wanda
daily
Sykes.
daily
Yeah.
show this week. So I was like, because she just cracks me up all the
Yeah.
time. So I'd be like, okay, that'd be a fun person to have
Yeah.
talking about me.
Yeah, that's a good answer because
Yeah.
she can make anything fun
I
and
know.
exciting.
Right? And that's the thing is I wish I had more humor, like just around my life. So that's why I go with the comedian, I think.
Yeah.
That's really a good question though. The
Yeah,
question
that
is though,
funny.
like what would they be saying? Like Iris says, like, she's feeding the cat.
No, but if they'd be funny, if it was like Wanda Sykes or Leslie Jones, they'd be
Yeah.
like, saying something like,
Like
well,
you need
that
to get a
cat-
life.
that ca- yeah, that cat's looking at her like, I don't like this food. So I don't know what she's thinking she's
Yeah,
doing.
go away.
Anyway, all right. So that was a good question for you too, because you're all involved in Hollywood, so you probably hear a lot of voices and stuff. So, and we have talked to a few screenwriters on the podcast that have turned to become novelists. But we're still curious all the time. What made you decide to write a book rather than a screenplay? Or is that what you call it? Screenplay, whatever.
Yeah, screenplay is usually, I say screenplay for film and then teleplay if it's for
Okay.
television or streaming. But I'm not sure now what to call streaming because it's
Streamplay.
Yeah.
Screenplay.
Yeah.
Screen stream. Yeah, I know.
I did want to write a novel first. So since I was a kid, that was my dream to write a novel. So it took a long time, but it finally came true. So I did take classes originally in writing novels and writing prose. And then I could never finish a novel. So since I live in Los Angeles and everybody here is writing a screenplay. So I thought,
Like you all hang out in the coffee shop, right?
yes, everybody goes to the coffee shop.
Do you know Matt Whitten? We talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about that.
Yeah.
Hanging out in the coffee shops.
Yeah, and every waitress or waiter is a struggling actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we had someone from Boston come by and just to prove our point, we talked to the waitress and said, "Are you an actor?" And like, yes.
She's like, I am.
Yeah. So it just, I don't know. It's kind of weird here, but yeah, everybody's writing a screenplay. So I thought, well, let me give that a try. So I started taking classes in writing screenplays. And I found out that I could actually finish one because they're much shorter. They're like 100 pages about, and there's a lot of white space. And so I thought, oh, this I can do, this I can finish. So I switched over to writing screenplays, and then I started entering contests. And I won a contest where one of the judges was an agent, and that's how I got my representation, and that's how I got
Wow.
into that
That
world.
was going to be my next question. Like, how do you even get into the screenwriting? I mean, we've talked so much about getting novels. You have to do all the querying and stuff, but that's very interesting.
To
So,
me,
Yeah.
it sounds more intimidating to try to get into Hollywood than it does to try to get a novel published, which, I mean, they both are incredibly hard. But I mean, you obviously found an
you
agent
got
and
skills, girl.
yeah, you got skills.
Well, it's what I recommend a lot of people because, agents are probably risk adverse, and so they want to see some like a resume basically. So the only way to build a resume is really in screenwriting, at least, is to either enter a contest or to enter a film festival. Like if there are people I know who have made their own little mini films, and then that's how they get some attention if they are able to have their work displayed at a festival. So what I tell people for novel writing, maybe because I'm thinking in the same way, like what would an agent want to see, is maybe try to get a short story published somewhere. Or again, there's many contests, writing contests. So that's what I recommend. And people I've recommended in screenwriting, at least, who have entered contests, some of my friends have gotten representation that way.
Oh,
Wow.
awesome.
That's
Well, that's
wonderful
good to know.
tips. Yeah.
Is our sound engineer listening there?
He's a screenwriter.
Yeah.
So are you able to work on multiple projects at once? Like, I understand that screenwriters do that regularly, and now you're writing novels. So are you, and then what's your process like? And is it different for screenwriting versus novel writing?
Yes, you do as a screenwriter usually have to juggle several projects at once. It's usually like a hurry up and do this now, and then a long period of waiting. It's sort of like hurry up, okay, then you don't hear anything for a long time. So there's during those downtimes, you usually, you're trying to get something else. So yeah, the pacing is just kind of strange in Hollywood because you never are sure what's actually going to get greenlit, or the process. Like it can take a year or two where you're just working on a pitch, and you're not getting paid to do that. So it's good to have several irons in the fire at one time. And even if you're getting paid to work on one at the moment, you need to have your next one lined up, because the pay is just, you don't know when your pay is coming in. So and there's no like contract where it says we will pay you by this time. It's kind of at the whim of whatever the producers or the studios. And so there's one that I'm working on now where I turned in the script about like a year ago, and then I never heard anything, and I thought, oh, okay, it's not gonna get greenlit, so just move on. It's kind of weird, like sometimes ghosting.
So do you get paid even for the beginning part?
Yes, I got paid, everything's paid in steps. So you get so much money for starting, you get so much money for turning in this draft, and then, if it continues, you'll get for the rewrite, and so on and so forth. And sometimes, you don't hear anything, and you don't know what's going on.
Really?
And then it came back a year later. It's like, yeah, we're gonna now do the rewrite. So
You're like, so crazy.
Wait, what was this again?
So yeah, it's in the screenwriting world, it's definitely you're juggling projects all the time. With the novel, it's more time intensive, so it's really hard to juggle, I've been finding. Like I don't think I could do two books at one time. I am trying to juggle the book and these Hollywood projects at the same time. But again, I'm counting on those downtimes in the screenwriting world where it's quiet and you're
Yeah.
just, okay, so now I'll work on my novel.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. I wonder, do you find it to be common that screenwriters, a lot of them are interested in writing novels, or do you think it's more of a, this is our world and not going to go over into that world?
I have a writers group and we're all kind of in the Hollywood world, and we all started writing screenplays, and now a bunch of us are writing novels. So it's I think it depends, like if you're a hot writer in the screenwriting world, you're probably going to stay there because
Yeah.
it's quicker, and so the money probably comes in faster, and so I can imagine that if you're very successful that you're going to want to stay there. But in terms of I think personal satisfaction and liberation, I think books are much more, for me, I really enjoy it because it's your, it's your work, and you are everything. I always say you're not just the writer, you're the director, you're the cinematographer, you're the
Oh,
casting director and everything. So the writing is original and you have, control over it. Whereas in
Yeah.
screenwriting, you're just another piece of the puzzle. Like there's so many people that are involved in making a movie, and you're just a part of it. And most of the time, you're not working on something original. Most of the time, you're working on someone else's intellectual property. So whether it be a book adaptation, or a remake, or someone else's idea, like a producer has an idea and they have maybe a news article or something, and then they hire you, and then they can fire you if they want and hire another writer.
yeah.
So it's never like you have full ownership over the material, and a lot of times it feels like you're writing like by committee because everybody
Right.
has their own vision, and they
Yeah.
want it this way, and then they kind of tell you, and you're just trying to figure out how to please everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So when you mentioned you're a casting director, did you have actors in mind when you were creating your characters? I mean, did you picture who you would cast?
No, actually, because I came from screenwriting where you don't know who's going to get cast, so I don't like go deep into description. Like I'll say, female 50s, and then that's pretty much it,
Right.
because I don't know who's going to get cast or whatever. So I don't usually try to picture someone
Yeah.
there. And then for the book, I didn't have a picture in my mind, and I
Wow.
just wrote it. And then it came time to make the cover, although there's no character on the cover right now. That was one thought, was, well, maybe we'll have the protagonist on the cover, possibly. It's just
Mm-hmm.
when we were talking about it, and then the artist says, well, what does she look like? I was like, oh, I don't know. So I went back and I put in some description after that, because I realized I had never described her.
Oh, that's so
That's so funny.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like I kind of did that myself, but I didn't know. I'm like, maybe I should be a screenwriter now, I'm thinking. But but like, it's like you don't want to, but I also don't like it in a book. Well, I guess I do like it okay in a book, but then I don't like it when the book becomes a movie and the person doesn't look anything like what I pictured in my head.
Well,
So
there's the whole
or how they've been described in the book, like you were saying, that because
Yeah.
They do cast different,
Well,
when they
look
make
at
it.
the Jack Reacher Tom Cruise debacle.
Yeah. Yeah, like if I didn't know what Jack Reacher was supposed to look like, I'd have been like, fine. But now it's like I can't get over the fact that he doesn't look anything like,
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Christy has a
Oh,
very important question to ask you.
this is what we ask all our authors at the end.
Mhm.
Um, if which of your characters would you like to share a meal with, and what would it be?
Wow, that's interesting. With my characters, well, I know what Lonnie would eat, so maybe Lonnie, and I would have her fried rice with her.
That would be
Yeah,
delicious.
I know that. Maybe bring her to like a fancier restaurant so she could be shocked on the difference of.
Yeah, she could have some good fried rice for a change.
And I'm only saying that because it was described that way. Now I'm
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
I wasn't eating it.
Okay, so when our listeners want to learn more about the book and about you, where should they reach out? Where's the best place to find you?
Well, I have a website, which is my name, Iris, Iris, Yamashita, YAMASHITA.com. I also have a Facebook page, Iris Yamashita Author, and I have an Instagram site as well, which is also Iris Yamashita.
Great.
Wonderful. And we'll have all
Thanks.
those links for everybody to find you. And I I don't know what's happening with this novel, but I picture this on screen. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there you go. So I think we really appreciate you taking the time to join us in your busy schedule, and I think we just need to say cheers to this wonderful debut.
Well, thank you
Yes.
so much for having me
Congratulations.
on your show. And
Yes.
Cheers.
the wine
Cheers.
was, yeah,
I know.
thank you.